Benaiah, one of the most prominent figures in David's army, traces his lineage back to the tribe of Levi, one of the 12 tribes of Israel. The tribe of Levi stood out from the others because it had been chosen to perform specific religious functions. The Levites were responsible for the services in the tabernacle, which would later become the temple in Jerusalem, and played a central role in the spiritual life of the nation. Although many of the Levitical functions were priestly and liturgical in nature, the Levites also had military and leadership responsibilities within Israelite society. It is in this context that Benaiah comes into the picture, whose Levitical lineage adds an interesting layer to his identity as a warrior. Benaiah was the son of Jehoiada, a man described in the Bible as a mighty, valiant man. Although Jehoiada was from the tribe of Levi, he is remembered not only for his religious connection, but also for his bravery and military skills. This suggests that Benaiah's family was involved in activities that went beyond the traditional religious responsibilities of the Levites, possibly including military training and leadership. As the leader of his community, Jehoiada played a key role in both the spiritual and physical development of his son, preparing him for the great responsibilities he would assume in the future. The mention of Jehoiada in the Bible highlights the importance of his figure and suggests that he had a major influence on Benaiah's career. Benaiah grew up in Kabul, a city located in the southernmost region, close to the border with Edom. This frontier environment, often marked by tension and conflict, contributed to the development of Benaiah's skills as a warrior. Living in an area prone to enemy incursions required that the locals be always ready for defense, and it is likely that Benaiah learned to fight at an early age. The combination of his Levitical lineage, the rigorous training provided by his father, Jehoiada, and the constant need to defend his homeland molded him into a formidable fighter and a natural leader. The name Benaiah is of Hebrew origin and is a combination of two words, Ben, which means son of, and Yah, an abbreviation of the name of God, which can be interpreted as Son of God or one to whom God is merciful. It is important to note that many names in the Bible have symbolic and spiritual meanings, and the name Benaiah reflects the belief in the importance of a relationship with God, being an expression of faith and trust in divinity. Benaiah lived during a time of great transformation and challenge in the kingdom of Israel under the leadership of King David. David, the second king of Israel, is a central figure in biblical history, known as much for his devotion to God as for his military and political skills. He unified the tribes of Israel, establishing a strong and centralized kingdom with Jerusalem as its capital. This historical context was marked by constant warfare, both to defend the kingdom against invaders and to expand its borders. During David's reign, Israel faced a number of powerful enemies, including the Philistines, Ammonites, Moabites, Edomites, and Arameans, each of these nations posing a significant threat to Israel's security and stability. David, a formidable military leader, led his army on victorious campaigns. David's conquests not only ensured peace and prosperity for Israel, but also fulfilled God's promises to Abraham regarding possession of the land. Through intense battles and brilliant strategies, David managed to subdue many of his enemies, expanding Israel's territory and cementing his position as one of the most powerful kings of his time. David's army was an impressive force, composed of courageous and experienced soldiers. Within this army was an elite group known as David's Mighty Men, or Gibborim, made up of exceptional warriors, each with remarkable feats in battle. Son of Jehoiada, Benaiah stood out among these brave men. His name is often mentioned alongside giants such as Joab, the commander of David's army, and Abishai, another of his most important military leaders. Benaiah's exploits were legendary, and he quickly gained a reputation as one of David's most fearless and loyal warriors. David's army was organized meticulously and efficiently. The king divided his troops into several units, each under the command of experienced leaders. David's mighty men formed the king's personal guard, composed of the most loyal and skilled warriors, responsible for protecting him and carrying out missions of great importance and risk. Benaiah's presence in this group reflects his importance and the respect he earned through his actions. He stood out not only for his bravery, but also for his strategic ability, unwavering loyalty to the king, and deep faith in God. Benaiah served David at a crucial time for Israel when the kingdom was establishing itself as a regional power. The battles and conquests under his leadership required courage and physical strength to ensure survival. Benaiah's first great feat came during a period of intense hostility between Israel and Moab, a neighboring nation often at odds with God's people. Moab was known for its military strength and fierce warriors, posing a constant threat to Israel's security and stability. Amid this tension, Benaiah faced a formidable challenge. Defeating two of the most powerful Moabite warriors, men considered heroes in their own right, known for their bravery and exceptional skills in battle, inspiring fear in even the most courageous fighters. The confrontation between Benaiah and the two Moabite warriors took place in a battle scenario where the enemy had the advantage in numbers and strategy. However, Benaiah, driven by his sense of duty and trust in God, was undeterred by his apparent disadvantage. Armed with his faith and combat experience, he faced both adversaries simultaneously, demonstrating an impressive combination of strength, agility, and tactical intelligence. The battle was intense and brutal, with every move requiring precision and determination. Benaiah used his fighting skills masterfully, deflecting coordinated attacks and responding with decisive blows that felled the Moabite warriors one by one. His victory not only eliminated an immediate threat, but also became a powerful symbol of divine protection and Israel's military superiority over its enemies. This heroic feat elevated Benaiah's status among his countrymen, marking him as a warrior of the highest caliber. Benaiah distinguished himself as a dedicated and exceptional defender of his people. One of the most notable episodes that demonstrate his courage was when he faced and killed a lion in a den on a snowy day. This incident is especially impressive given the harsh conditions surrounding him. The harsh weather and snow-covered terrain made movement dangerous and unpredictable, reducing visibility and increasing the risk of slipping and falling. Facing a lion would be a daunting task in ideal circumstances, but doing so in such a hostile environment required extraordinary courage and determination. Benaiah's decision to go down into the den to confront the lion reflects a strong sense of duty and the possible need to protect his community from an immediate threat. The lion, a powerful and ferocious creature, posed a deadly danger, especially within the confined space of the den, where there was no way to escape or maneuver. Benaiah, however, went down to the den, knowing that he would face the beast on its own turf, where the lion would have a natural advantage. The battle was fierce and desperate, with the lion's roar mingling with his footsteps in the snow as Benaiah fought with all his might, utilizing every bit of skill and experience he possessed. Amidst sharp claws and deadly teeth, he remained calm, looking for openings to attack and defend himself. Finally, through brute force, strategy, and possibly divine intervention, Benaiah was able to subdue and kill the lion. This feat not only eliminated a deadly threat, but also served as a testament to Benaiah's courage and faith, further cementing his reputation as a hero among his people. Another notable feat of Benaiah was his victory over an Egyptian warrior of colossal stature, armed with an imposing spear. Egypt, known for its rich culture and military prowess, produced highly trained warriors who were feared throughout the ancient world. Benaiah's opponent in this encounter was described as a man of great stature, possibly a giant, whose spear was compared to a weaver's beam, indicating its considerable size and weight. Facing such a formidable opponent, armed with a powerful weapon, highlighted Benaiah's boldness and confidence in his abilities and divine protection. While the Egyptian relied on his physical strength and the superiority of his spear, Benaiah relied on his dexterity, speed, and strategic intelligence. He approached the giant cautiously, using his staff not only as a weapon, but also as a means of deflecting and blocking the enemy's powerful spear strikes. In a decisive moment, Benaiah performed an impressive feat. He disarmed the Egyptian and took possession of the opponent's own spear. With this weapon now in his hands, he turned the tables completely, turning the spear against its original owner and decisively defeating him. These three heroic deeds by Benaiah not only cemented his reputation as one of Israel's most valiant and skilled warriors, but also served as lasting inspirations for future generations. His exploits in combat quickly caught the attention of David, who saw him as a valuable and trustworthy ally. David's recognition of Benaiah's valor culminated in his promotion to the position of commander of the Royal Guard, a position of enormous prestige and responsibility. The king's personal guard was the elite unit within the army, tasked with protecting the king at all times, both in times of peace and in times of conflict. In times of war, being appointed commander of the Royal Guard was a clear demonstration that Benaiah had earned David's full trust. This position not only recognized his military skill, but also his loyalty and integrity. The Royal Guard, made up of Israel's finest soldiers, needed a leader who would not only fight alongside them, but also guide them with wisdom and courage. Benaiah proved to be just such a leader. Benaiah's loyalty to David was unwavering throughout his career. At a time when intrigue and conspiracies were common in the royal courts, Benaiah remained faithful to David, even in the most difficult situations. His loyalty was rewarded not only with promotions and prestigious positions, but also with the king's personal trust. For Benaiah, loyalty was not limited to military duty. It reflected a deep respect and admiration for David, whom he saw as God's chosen leader to rule Israel. Benaiah was also present at decisive moments that shaped Israel's future. During the last days of David's reign, the question of succession to the throne became an urgent and delicate issue. Adonijah, David's fourth son, noting his father's frailty and the lack of an official proclamation about his successor, decided to act on his own in an attempt to establish himself as king. His decision was not impulsive but calculated, inspired by the example of his brother Absalom, who had previously tried unsuccessfully to usurp the throne. Adonijah knew that the support of influential figures would be crucial to legitimizing his accession, so he began to gather around him powerful and influential men, such as Joab, the commander of David's army, and Abiathar, the priest. Although Joab was loyal to David and had served extensively in battle, his decision to support Adonijah may have been motivated by a combination of personal ambition and dissatisfaction with the direction of the court. Abiathar, for his part, also had a long history of service to David, but like Joab, he chose to ally himself with Adonijah, possibly believing that he would have a prominent position in the new government. With this powerful support, Adonijah felt confident enough to take the next step in his plot, organizing an elaborate ceremony to proclaim himself king. He carefully chose the location and guests for the event, holding it at En Rogel, a spring of water near Jerusalem. This location was significant and accessible, but at the same time far enough from the palace to avoid immediate interference from David or his supporters. Adonijah invited all of his brothers except Solomon and all the officers of the army of Judah, except those loyal to David and Solomon. He also excluded David's closest allies, such as the prophet Nathan, Benaiah, and the select group of warriors who formed the royal guard. During the celebration, Adonijah sacrificed sheep, oxen, and fattened calves, a display of power and prosperity that also had deep religious and political significance. The feast was a grand affair, designed to rally support and seal his claim to the throne. The sacrificial offerings and the meal that followed were part of the rite of self-proclamation, suggesting that the gods, and in particular the God of Israel, were on Adonijah's side. The presence of Joab and Abiathar at the ceremony reinforced the legitimacy of the event, sending the message that both the military and the clergy supported the new order that Adonijah sought to establish. However, this grandiose celebration and Adonijah's attempt to solidify his hold on the throne did not go unnoticed. Nathan, David's prophet and close advisor, immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. He understood that if Adonijah seized the throne, God's promise to David that Solomon would succeed him would be frustrated. Nathan knew that a successful usurpation by Adonijah could plunge Israel into civil war or, at the very least, prolonged instability. Recognizing the urgency of the moment, Nathan acted quickly. He went to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, and together they devised a strategy to alert David to the plot. Nathan suggested that Bathsheba go to David and remind him of his promise that Solomon would be his successor. She should then ask David directly if he had changed his mind, or if Adonijah was acting without his consent. Bathsheba's message was intended not only to awaken David to the gravity of the situation, but also to appeal to his sense of duty and to the divine promise involving Solomon. After Bathsheba's entrance, Nathan would join her to confirm the report and further emphasize the urgency of the moment. The coordinated approach of Nathan and Bathsheba worked as planned. When Bathsheba presented herself to David, she expressed her concern for Solomon's future and the kingdom, emphasizing that if Adonijah became king, she and her son would be in great danger. Nathan then entered and reinforced Bathsheba's words by informing David of Adonijah's self-proclamation ceremony at En-Rogel. He warned David that if he did not act quickly, Adonijah could seize the throne, thus thwarting Solomon's reign. David's reaction was immediate. In an urgent and symbolic ceremony, he ordered that Solomon be anointed and proclaimed king, with Benaiah playing a key role in the process. Benaiah, along with the priest Zadok and the prophet Nathan, ensured that Solomon was anointed at Gibeon, an action that cemented Solomon's claim to the throne and put an end to Adonijah's conspiracy, at least temporarily. This quick and decisive decision by David, influenced by the diligent action of Nathan and Bathsheba, set in motion the events that would thwart Adonijah's conspiracy and secure the throne for Solomon. After the anointing, the people erupted in joy. The sound of trumpets filled the air, and the city of Jerusalem exclaimed, "Long live King Solomon!" The city was filled with spontaneous celebration as the people recognized and accepted Solomon as their new sovereign. The people's uproar and joy were a clear demonstration that the nation was behind Solomon and that any attempt by Adonijah to claim the throne was doomed to failure. This public show of support was crucial to Solomon's success, as it cemented his power and disarmed Adonijah's plot. Meanwhile, Adonijah and his followers were in the midst of their own celebration, unaware that the tide had turned against them. When the sound of the trumpets and the shouting of the people of Jerusalem reached them, Adonijah's party came to an abrupt halt. In 1 Kings 1:41-49, we see the reaction of Adonijah and his guests. Joab, ever alert and experienced in battle and plotting, was the first to notice that something was wrong. He questioned the noise, and it soon became clear that devastating news was coming. Then Jonathan, son of Abiathar, arrived at the banquet with the news that no one wanted to hear. Solomon had been anointed king by David's order. Upon hearing this, fear and panic gripped Adonijah and his supporters, who soon realized that their plot had failed and that they were now in grave danger. The guests who had previously supported Adonijah quickly dispersed, each seeking his own life. The euphoria of the banquet turned to terror and despair, as Adonijah, who had just seen himself as the new king of Israel, now faced the reality of his imminent downfall. Fearing for his life, Adonijah ran to the altar of the Lord and clung to the horns of the altar for protection, a desperate gesture that reflected his awareness of guilt and recognition of his defeat. He hoped that the sacred place would grant him refuge and that upon learning of his act, Solomon would show mercy. As long as Adonijah remained at the altar, his situation was precarious, for he knew that his survival depended on Solomon's clemency. His act of seeking refuge at the altar was therefore a plea to the new king to show mercy rather than vengeance. In 1 Kings 1:50-51, Adonijah sent a message to Solomon asking that his life be spared. He acknowledged that he had lost and that he was now entirely dependent on Solomon's compassion. This plea for mercy showed that Adonijah was aware of his vulnerability and hoped that the family alliance and sacred place of refuge could protect his life. Solomon, who had just ascended the throne, faced a crucial decision. He could have chosen to eliminate Adonijah immediately, ensuring that there would be no future threats to his reign. However, Solomon chose to show leniency, a decision that reflected both his wisdom and his understanding of royal politics. Solomon agreed to spare Adonijah's life, but under strict conditions. He warned Adonijah that his life would be spared as long as he behaved like a righteous man and did not attempt to usurp the throne again. In 1 Kings 1:52-53, Solomon laid down the rules clearly. If Adonijah demonstrated loyalty and refrained from further conspiracy, he would live. If he did not, his life would be taken. Solomon was willing to grant pardon, but he made it clear that he would tolerate no threat to his reign. Adonijah accepted the offer of clemency and was brought before Solomon, where he prostrated himself in submission. Solomon, in a show of magnanimity, allowed Adonijah to return to his home, but the underlying tension remained. Solomon's decision was both a show of power and a test for Adonijah, for Solomon expected his half-brother to accept his subordinate position and not try to challenge the established order again. However, the story would not end there. Sometime later, Adonijah made one last attempt to assert power, making a request that at first glance might seem harmless, but carried profound political implications. He approached Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, asking her to intercede with the king so that he might be allowed to marry Abishag the Shunammite. Although the biblical text indicates that David never had relations with Abishag, one of the king's concubines, marrying a concubine of the monarch in the culture of the time, could be interpreted as a claim to the throne. Adonijah knew that by marrying Abishag, he would be positioning himself as a pretender to the throne, implicitly challenging Solomon's authority. Bathsheba, perhaps not fully understanding the political implications of this request, took Adonijah's request to Solomon. However, Solomon, who had been trained in David's wisdom and insight, immediately understood the hidden meaning behind the request. Solomon responded firmly, realizing that Adonijah, by seeking to marry Abishag, was trying to consolidate a position that could result in a new attempt at usurpation. For Solomon, this act confirmed that Adonijah still posed a threat to his reign and the stability of the kingdom. Faced with this new threat, Solomon made the decision to put an end to Adonijah's life. He could not allow his half-brother to continue to challenge his authority and jeopardize the peace of the kingdom. In a clear display of authority, Solomon ordered Adonijah's execution. Benaiah, commander of the royal guard and one of Solomon's most trusted men, was tasked with carrying out this order without hesitation. He executed Adonijah, neutralizing the threat to Solomon's throne. Although violent, this act was necessary to preserve the stability of the kingdom and demonstrated Benaiah's willingness to protect Solomon's rightful reign. In addition to executing Adonijah, Benaiah was also tasked with other crucial missions for Solomon, including the execution of Joab, who had betrayed David by supporting Adonijah. Joab, who had been one of the top commanders in David's army, took refuge at the altar of the tabernacle, hoping that the sanctity of the place would protect him. However, Solomon ordered that he be removed and executed, ending the life of a man who had been both an ally and a potential threat. Once again, Benaiah was called upon to carry out this order. By executing Joab, Benaiah not only removed a troublesome figure, but also further cemented his position as Solomon's trusted man. These actions by Benaiah on Solomon's behalf reflect his loyalty and his essential role in cementing Solomon's reign. He not only carried out the king's orders, but also acted as a guardian of the kingdom, protecting it from internal and external threats. After the transition of the kingship, Benaiah was appointed supreme commander of Israel's army, marking the pinnacle of his military career. He succeeded Joab, one of David's most notable and controversial commanders, who had played a crucial role in Israel's military victories, but whose ambiguous loyalties compromised his position. Under Benaiah's leadership, the Israelite army underwent a consolidation of forces and a reassertion of Israel's power in the region. Benaiah brought a new vision to military leadership, focused on loyalty, discipline, and efficiency. His presence at the head of the army was instrumental in stabilizing the kingdom during the transition between the reigns of David and Solomon, ensuring that the army remained a unified and effective force. Benaiah's legacy is a rich and profound legacy that resonates throughout the pages of history. Benaiah's life is a remarkable example of bravery, loyalty, and unwavering faith. Throughout his life, he distinguished himself not only as a formidable warrior, but also as a leader of impeccable character and a devoted servant of God. His story is a testament to the importance of maintaining integrity and courage in the face of adversity, offering valuable lessons for believers of all ages. As a warrior, Benaiah performed feats that placed him among David's most celebrated warriors. He defeated 2 mighty Moabite warriors, faced a lion in a den on a snowy day, and overcame an Egyptian giant armed only with a staff. These acts of courage not only demonstrate his physical strength and skill, but also his determination and unwavering trust in God. He faced challenges that would have made many hesitate, but he pressed on, knowing that his mission was part of a greater divine plan to protect and strengthen Israel. As a leader, Benaiah rose through the ranks of David's army to become commander of the royal guard and eventually supreme commander of the army of Israel. His rise was not only a recognition of his combat skills, but also a reflection of his unquestioning loyalty and upright character. David and Solomon trusted him completely, even in the most difficult times, and his leadership brought stability and security to the kingdom. His ability to make just and effective decisions cemented his reputation as one of Israel's greatest military leaders. As a faithful servant of God, Benaiah demonstrated that true strength comes from faith. He served David and Solomon with the conviction that he was fulfilling God's will. His faith guided his actions at every turn in his life, and he never wavered from his duty, even when it involved making difficult decisions, such as executing Adonijah and Joab to protect Solomon's rightful kingdom. His loyalty was not limited to earthly kings, but also to the King of Heaven, and this spiritual devotion permeated his every action. The lessons that Benaiah's life offers believers are profound and timeless. In a world where courage, faith, and loyalty are often tested, Benaiah serves as an example of what it means to stand firm in one's convictions. He teaches us that true bravery is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act rightly, even in the face of great danger. His unwavering faith in God reminds us that no matter what challenges we face, we can trust that we are in God's hands. Furthermore, Benaiah's loyalty to both his leaders and to God challenges us to be faithful in all areas of our lives, maintaining our integrity and commitment even when it is difficult. In the larger picture of the biblical narrative, Benaiah plays a crucial role in establishing and consolidating the kingdom of Israel. He was one of the cornerstones upon which David and Solomon built a kingdom that would become central to the history of God's people. Without leaders like Benaiah, willing to fight for and protect what is right and true, the history of Israel might have been very different. His presence in Scripture is a reminder that God uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things, and that each of us has a role to play in God's grand plan. Benaiah's legacy is much more than his military achievements. It is a legacy of faith, courage, and loyalty that continues to inspire. His life reminds us that when we serve God wholeheartedly, we can rise to any challenge and leave a lasting impact that will echo through generations. If you found this video informative and inspiring, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future content. Share your thoughts in the comments below, as I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. Hugs and God bless.